Entering Jane's house, I opened the door to a room that seemed like an old storage space. In the corner of the dark room, I found Violet. What on earth happened? As I called out, Violet looked up. She looked very pale.
Grandma.
Next to Violet were textbooks and workbooks. How long have you been here without even turning on the light?
I've been here for a year.
What did you just say? Did she study here for a year? And there were dishes and cups around, too. Had she been eating here as well? Can you tell me what's going on, Violet? I took Violet's hand and spoke to her. After hearing Violet's story, I couldn't hide my shock. I never imagined she had suffered so much. The root of all evil was Jane. I left the storage room, completely furious. I found Jane and screamed at her, shaking with anger. What were you thinking? Locking a child up in such a place. What you are doing is wrong. Just as Jane was about to retort, the front door opened and someone came into the house.
How could you?
I stared at a bewildered Jane with a cool gaze. My name is Hilary Taylor, 63 years old. I currently live with my husband, Kyle, just the two of us, and I'm a housewife. Kyle is 65 this year. He's retired, and we spend our days relaxing at home. We have two sons, Kevin and Jeremy. Kevin is 38, and Jeremy is 34. They've long since left the nest and built their own families. So now we only see them during holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving. Since the younger son's family has no children, our only grandchild is Violet, the daughter of our eldest son's family. Violet is a lively and adorable girl who turns 8 this year. She always talks to me, calling out Grandma, Grandma, and gives me her drawings, which she's good at. One of her drawings, featuring smiling portraits of Kyle and me, is displayed prominently in our living room. Looking at it always warms our hearts.
I wonder how Violet is doing. I'd like to see her soon.
Kyle remarks with a squint. Yes, I do want to see her drawings again. Violet was happily drawing today as well. We believed that. But at that time, we couldn't imagine the unexpected events that were happening to her. It was on a sunny morning. The doorbell rang, and I opened the door to find Jane standing there.
It's been a while, Hilary.
Jane, what brings you here, all of a sudden? I was surprised. Jane is our eldest son, Kevin's wife. Since they live about a 3-hour train ride from here, they rarely visit our home. What happened to her?
Sorry for the sudden visit. I have a favor to ask.
What is it? Come in first. I led Jane into the living room. Kyle too was surprised by her unfamiliar presence. Jane, like Kevin, is 38 years old. She looked the same as the last time we met, with light makeup and simple clothes. However, her face seemed to carry a hint of fatigue. Without touching the tea I offered, Jane started to speak.
Hilary, Kyle, I actually need to borrow some money.
What? Why?
It's for Violet's tuition. She's attending a tutoring now, but we're thinking of enrolling her in another one that has a track record of sending students to top schools.
Tutoring. I was taken aback. Violet is still in elementary school. Isn't tutoring unnecessary at her age? I was about to say so, but times have changed, and I'm not familiar with the current educational situation. Therefore, I couldn't strongly object.
Violet wants to become a lawyer. That's why she needs to focus on her studies from now on.
That's the first time I'm hearing this. Violet loves drawing. I seem to recall that she previously mentioned wanting to pursue a career in drawing or illustration. I was puzzled. Suddenly, Jane's eyes narrowed sharply.
How can you say that? That's not possible. Violet is going to become a lawyer no matter what anyone says. So please lend us the money.
Jane's vehement demand made both Kyle and me shrink back.
If that's the case, we need to check with Kevin first.
Kyle said, to which Jane suddenly regained her composure and answered with a smile.
Kyle, it's okay. Kevin agrees to. We'll pay you back as soon as we get the bonus.
But she's already attending a tutoring, right? And you're saying to add another one.
Hillary, the competition starts from elementary school these days. Without good education, you're left behind in society. It's all for Violet's future. Please understand, I beg you.
Now she was tearfully making her plea. Kyle and I exchanged looks and fell silent. It's hard to argue when it's for Violet's future.
I'd like to hear it directly from Violet, though.
Violet is studying hard at home right now, not wanting to waste any time. She's really trying her best. So please don't disturb her. Shouldn't we as adults do everything possible to support Violet's wishes?
Is that so? How much do you need?
For now, just $1,000 for the summer courses. The payment deadline is close.
Kyle sighed.
All right, if that's what Violet wants to do.
Yes, I'll withdraw it from the bank. Thus, we lent the money to Jane. But it was all news to me. I had no idea Violet wanted to be a lawyer. But after all, we are just grandparents and don't live with her. It's no wonder Violet has a change of mind. That's what I thought, trying to convince myself. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, while reading the newspaper, Kyle looked up and said thoughtfully,
About Violet, does she really want to become a lawyer? I mean, if she truly thinks so, of course, I'll support her. But it was quite unexpected.
Yes, maybe we should hear it from Violet herself. I decided to make a phone call. Violet doesn't have a cell phone. The only way to communicate with her would be through Jane. Hello, Jane, thanks for the other day. Is Violet there? Can I talk to her?
Violet, she can't answer the phone. She's busy.
Jane responded curtly. Just for a short while. Then Jane suddenly started yelling.
Just for a while. What if she misses solving even one problem during that time? The entrance test for the tutoring we talked about is coming up. The test scores will determine her class placement. She has to get into the top class or she'll fall behind. Do you know how hard it is to catch up after that?
I was taken aback by Jane's torrential tirade. And since she was completely unyielding, I had no choice but to reluctantly end the call.
How did it go?
Kyle asked anxiously, and I shook my head. No good, Jane wouldn't put her on the phone.
What? Why?
I don't understand it myself. I'll try calling Kevin. I searched for Kevin's name on my smartphone's contact list. In fact, Kevin was not living with Jane currently. He had been on a work assignment alone for about a year now. He proudly told me last year that the company had high hopes for him and promised a promotion upon his return from this assignment. I didn't want to involve him too much, but it seemed necessary now. Kevin answered the phone immediately.
Hello. Oh, it's you, Mom.
Sorry to bother you when you're busy. It's about Violet. I briefly recounted my exchange with Jane. Then Kevin expressed surprise.
Wait, what? Violet wants to be a lawyer. I've never heard of that.
Kevin, like us, had never heard of it. Moreover, he was unaware that Jane had become so enthusiastic about Violet's education. Being away from home for a year, it's no wonder.
I'm not quite sure, but maybe Jane has started saying some odd stuff. I'm swamped with work right now. It'll be a while before I can return home, but I'll try to talk to them in person next time.
That would be better. It might be nosy, but I'm really curious about Jane's sudden change.
Is it that weird? Oh, now that I mentioned it, speaking of lawyers,
Kevin shared something with me. It was enough to fuel my anxiety. Over the weekend, Kyle and I visited Jane's house. It was about the eldest son's family. Maybe it's wrong for me to interfere. Still, I had a bad feeling about it. After all, Jane was just screaming, and we hadn't really heard Violet's side of things. I wanted to know what Violet thought. Besides, she is now a fatherless life, which means a single-parent home. I wondered how Violet was spending her time alone with Jane. When I rang the bell and introduced ourselves, Jane came out in a panic.
What's the matter, Hillary and Kyle?
Jane was clearly flustered. A friend of mine lives around here, so I was just stopping by on my way back from visiting her. I responded with a smile. A little white lie can't hurt. By the way, is Violet around? Jane fumbled for an answer to my question.
Well, she's not feeling well and is resting in the back. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, even though you've come all this way.
It's all right. I just wanted to see her for a bit.
No, but she probably wouldn't want to meet you. So maybe not today.
Jane was adamant about not letting us see Violet, not budging an inch. Something felt off. At that moment, Kyle spoke up.
Ouch. My back. My chronic back problem.
Kyle crouched down, clutching his back.
Are you okay?
He glanced at me. He said it wasn't chance.
Jane, is there a chiropractor around here?
Well, I think.
We still have the taxi waiting over there. Could you show us the way? Sorry for the trouble.
Kyle forcefully asked Jane for directions and headed towards the taxi. As I watched the two of them leave, I muttered, "Sorry, Jane." Then, I entered the house. It was silent, with no sign of anyone around. I opened each room door, searching for Violet. Violet, where are you, Violet? She wasn't in any of those rooms. The last place left was an unused, old storage room. There, in the dark room, was Violet. With resolve, I opened the door. What's going on? When I spoke, Violet looked up. Her face, which I hadn't seen in a while, seemed terribly pale. Next to Violet were textbooks and workbooks.
Grandma,
Why are you here in the dark, without even the light on?
I've been studying here the whole time, using a flashlight to save on the electricity bill, solving problems.
Violet spoke weakly. Since when?
For a year, I've been here.
What? Studying in a place like this for a year. And there were dishes and cups around. Was she eating here as well? Can you tell me what's going on, Violet? I took Violet's hand, urging her to talk.
But
Violet hesitated. I wonder if she's afraid of Jane. Don't worry, Violet, Grandma's on your side. Violet started to cry and began to speak haltingly. And then she began to speak haltingly. This was Violet's story. A year ago, when Kevin was transferred to work alone, and Violet was left to live with Jane. That's when changes in Jane began. While Violet was drawing as usual, Jane spoke to her.
Violet, you're already 8 years old. You should start focusing more on your studies for middle school, not just drawing silly pictures all the time.
Of course, Violet argued back. But Jane wouldn't listen. On the contrary, she tore up the illustration of the violet.
Listen, stop wasting time on drawings that won't benefit your future. You're going to be a lawyer. It's a respected profession, helping people. Sounds good, right?
Jane said this with a smile. That's when Violet's days of hell began. She was forced to attend tutoring, dealing with a massive amount of homework. Though only in 3rd grade, Violet was pushed to study at a middle school level for accelerated education. Rest was not an option. If test results were poor, Jane would rage and berate Violet. Eventually, Violet was told, as punishment, you'll live in the storage room, making her eat and study there. Moreover, if you can't answer the questions, you don't deserve to sleep inside the house, so she slept under the eaves. Sometimes, Kevin would return from his assignment. However, Jane would act normally only when Kevin was home. She also made sure to warn Violet, you know what will happen if you tell your dad, right? This made it impossible for anyone to seek help. I was stunned by these revelations. Jane's behavior wasn't just being enthusiastic about education. It was clearly excessive. I was trembling with anger. Jane said it was for Violet's future, but this is not for Violet.
I've been drawing these secretly because I would get scolded by Mom.
Violet showed me a piece of paper. There was a colorful drawing. It was a bright and cheerful picture that seemed to bring joy to anyone who looked at it. Thinking that she had been drawing with all her might in such a hellish environment made my heart ache. Clearly, Violet doesn't want to be a lawyer. It was all Jane's imposition. What was she thinking, forcing Violet to do this and lying to us. I looked into Violet's eyes and said, I understand now, thank you for telling me. Let's go to my place for now. It's not good for you to stay here. The more I heard, the more convinced I became. Jane was not in a state to accept reasoning. The priority was to get Violet out of this house. Then, there was a commotion near the entrance. Jane and Kyle must have returned. Violet, wait here for a bit, I told her and stepped out of the storage room. I had to speak clearly to Jane. Seeing me come out of the room, Jane raised her voice.
Hillary, how dare you enter the room without permission? Did you and Kyle deceive me, pretending his back hurt?
Looking past Jane, I saw Kyle now standing up straight. I'm sorry about that, but you've been lying too, right? Saying Violet wants to be a lawyer, that's a blatant lie. Locking a child up like that. What were you thinking? Jane retorted with anger in her face.
I'm not lying. Violet is going to be a lawyer. That's what's been decided.
Kyle was taken aback by Jane's furious outburst. The reason for her obsession with the lawyer. That was the answer to what Kevin told me the other day. It's not Violet, it's you who wanted to be a lawyer, right?
Well,
Jane, struck by the truth, stumbled over her words. According to Kevin, Jane once aspired to be a lawyer, but failed the exams. She became an office worker because she was unable to obtain a license to be a lawyer. Then she met Kevin and got married, and perhaps after having Violet, she was reminded of her old dream. It seemed she was trying to live out her own desires through her child. I spoke to her firmly. At that moment, the front door opened. Children are not tools for fulfilling your dreams. Education is important, but not to the extent of forcing it like this. You are trapped in your past, and do not see Violet as she is now.
Be quiet. What do you know, Hillary? Becoming a lawyer means a secure future. It's all for Violet's sake.
Jane's continued shouting was painfully desperate. Then the front door opened. The person who entered the living room was Kevin.
Kevin, why? How did you?
Jane was perplexed. He was panting in his suit. He hurried back from his workplace.
I got a call from Mom and was worried, so I came back early. I had no idea it had come to this.
Ignoring me, Jane desperately pleaded to Kevin.
It's all a misunderstanding. I want to support Violet's dream.
Kevin was not confused by Jane's words.
I heard from Mom. You visited Mom to borrow money to put Violet in an expensive tutoring, right? And you lied about me agreeing to it.
Chastised by Kevin, Jane momentarily looked guilty. But she quickly regained her composure and began to speak.
This was an investment for the future, not really a debt.
Jane mumbled her excuses. At that moment, Kevin looked around and picked up a document from the desk.
Is this the tutoring?
It turned out to be an application form for tutoring. The pamphlet contained the convenient words dramatic grade improvement and success in entering prestigious high schools. Despite Violet already attending one, Jane was planning to enroll her in even more. Looking around house, Books on child education methods were scattered everywhere, including an application for a seminar titled Turning Your Child into a Genius. Of course, it would cost something. The amount of money being spent was shocking. Kevin looked at the tutoring application, appalled.
It's so expensive. What are you thinking?
But I managed with my savings from before I was married. Recently it's not been enough, so I just asked your parents for help.
Jane made an excuse on the spur of the moment. She doesn't seem to think he's at fault one bit. Kevin sighed in frustration, deciding to ignore Jane. It looks like Kyle has decided to ignore Jane from now on. Turning to me, he said wearily,
There's no point in talking to Jane anymore. Where is Violet?
She's in the storage room in the back. She's been isolated there, as a punishment for not being able to study. She even eats and sleeps there, under the eaves. I just can't leave Violet here. Upon hearing this, Kevin exploded. What? That's unbelievable. Then Violet came out of the room.
Dad, you're back.
She was noticeably thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. Seeing her, Kevin embraced Violet.
I'm so sorry, Violet. I didn't realize. I'm sorry.
He then glared at Jane.
Violet can't stay here anymore. I'll take her with me.
That's best.
You can't just decide that.
Kevin shouted at Jane, who was persistently pressing the issue.
I can't leave her with you anymore. Reflect on your actions alone.
Jane flinched and fell silent. Leaving Jane standing there, Kevin, Violet, Kyle, and I left the house. We headed towards the station, starting to walk. During this time, Kevin was still handling calls from work, indicating he was extremely busy. After finishing the call, Kevin apologized to us.
Sorry, Mom. Work is hectic. Could you look after Violet for a while? I'll sort things out once things calm down.
Of course, we'll take good care of Violet, don't worry. Are you okay, Violet? I turned to Violet.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Violet looked a bit anxious. I wonder if Jane's spell hasn't been broken yet. I squeezed her hand reassuringly. By the time we reached home, it was completely dark. Violet finished her dinner and fell asleep immediately. She must have been under a lot of pressure lately. She seemed to have worn herself out completely. Poor child, being forced into this. I couldn't help but tear up looking at Violet's sleeping face.
I never imagined it would come to this.
Kyle sighed deeply. Kevin left Violet in our care and returned to his posting. Kevin said he was going to persuade Jane, but can he? My worries proved accurate. A week later, Kevin contacted us. He had been trying to reason with Jane in between his busy work schedule. Kevin repeatedly tried to persuade Jane, urging her to realize the foolishness of her actions and to change her ways. However, Jane showed no signs of repentance. Far from showing remorse, Jane even said, "Where have you put Violet? She will fall behind in her studies. There are tests coming up soon."
Are you still talking like that? Go back to who you were.
Kevin pleaded, but she retorted immediately.
I'm normal. I'm the one who thinks about Violet more than anyone else.
Despite hours of conversation, no resolution was reached, eventually leading to her hanging up the phone. The situation was at a standstill. It was around the time discussions emerged about considering divorce and Kevin formally taking custody of Violet. One morning, the doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, then there was Jane standing there. Jane. She was in her pajamas, her hair a mess, and her eyes were wild.
Hillary, Violet is here, right? Give her back to me.
She barged in, searching for Violet.
What's going on?
Kyle was shocked by her sudden appearance. Ignoring him, Jane rushed upstairs.
Violet, Violet.
I hurried after her, and she found the room where Violet was.
Mom.
Upon seeing Jane, Violet exclaimed in surprise.
Come on, Violet, we're leaving. You have a test to study for.
What are you talking about? Violet is. I tried to interject, but Jane shouted.
Stay out of her, Hillary.
Violet stood up, confused by her mother's sudden visit. And she declared firmly,
I won't go back.
What are you saying?
I won't become a lawyer. Studying is important, but I have other things I want to do in the future. Don't decide my future without me.
Violet's assertive tone shocked Jane, distorting her face. I embraced Violet's shoulders. Well said, Violet. But Jane, furious, glared at me.
I get it, you must have brainwashed Violet, and forgivable. She is going to become a lawyer.
The idea that we had brainwashed Violet was absurd. Jane has become uncommunicative. Even though I thought it was pointless, I raised my voice. I just had to say this one thing. What are you talking about? Wake up, can't you hear your child's real voice? Violet is suffering because of what you're doing. You keep saying it's for the child, but you're only thinking of yourself. If you want to be a lawyer so badly, you should pursue it yourself, not force it on Violet.
Huh.
Jane fell silent, looking frustrated. But in the next moment, Jane's eyes gleamed sharply. And she grabbed Violet's arm as if to use force.
Come on, Violet, you need to study.
No. Let me go, Mom.
Violet protested, trying to pull away as Jane dragged her out of the room. Wait. Violet resisted. During their struggle, they lost balance.
Watch out.
Kyle shouted. But it was too late. They tumbled down the stairs. Violet, Jane. When I called out, Violet responded with I'm okay and managed to get up, but Jane remained motionless. Kyle immediately called an ambulance. I was bewildered by the serious turn of events. Jane was quickly taken to the hospital by ambulance. She took an MRI, but there was no brain problem, and she suffered a temporary concussion. However, even after regaining consciousness, she appeared unable to distinguish reality, repeating disturbing words as if delirious.
Violet, you need to study, Violet.
The extent of her obsession became frightening. Jane then began to act out violently. Jane became erratic, crying out suddenly, and mistaking a nurse for Violet. She shouted, "Study!" Observing this, the doctor remarked, "It seems her mental state is more of a concern than her physical health." Jane was transferred to the psychiatric department. The doctor said she should stay in the hospital for a while because of her raging and screaming. I felt there was something wrong with her, but she had a problem with her mind. Afterward, having hospitalized Jane, we contacted her parents. We asked them to come to the hospital to explain Jane's recent condition. Her parents were visibly pale. They never imagined their daughter would end up like this. Jane's parents promised to take good care of her. After some time, Kevin expressed his wish to divorce Jane. Jane naturally refused. However, Kevin initiated legal proceedings, and as a result, the divorce was finalized. Kevin gaining custody of Violet. Later, we were called by Jane's parents and visited the hospital again.
"We've caused you so much trouble."
In the hospital's meeting room, Jane's mother apologized deeply. Then, they handed us an envelope.
"This is the money she borrowed. We are very sorry."
It was the $1,000 that she said was needed for Violet's tutoring, which she borrowed from me and Kyle. It seemed Jane's parents had covered the debt. I looked intently at their faces. Despite being around their 60s, just like us, Jane's parents looked much older. This turmoil must have aged them considerably. "Thank you kindly. How's Jane doing?" I casually asked.
"That's just it. She hasn't improved much. She keeps shouting at anyone to study or yelling you must become a lawyer. So, we have no choice but to keep her here for a while longer."
Saying that, Jane's mother sighed. Apparently, when Jane was young, her parents incessantly told her to study hard and aim for a respectable career. Sometimes even yelling at her when her grades were poor.
I wonder if it's because we pushed Jane too hard when she was young that things turned out this way. It's too late now, but we deeply regret it.
Jane's mother's unexpected confession left me with mixed feelings. This was the root of Jane's breakdown. A negative cycle passed down from her parents to Jane, and then to Violet. However, this cycle had to be stopped. With resolve, I declared, "Children have their own happiness. When parents impose too many of their ideals, it can break the child's spirit." Violet was also in danger of this. From now on, Kevin and we will take responsibility to ensure Violet grows up freely and happily. Jane's mother was in tears. She must be reflecting on what she did to little Jane. I hope that from now on, they can live while offering support to Jane, whose spirit has been broken. With these thoughts, we left the hospital. Afterward, Violet and Kevin began living with us. Kevin requested a transfer. Kevin negotiated with his superiors to work at a branch near our family home. I was worried that this might affect his chances for promotion, but Kevin reassured me, dismissing the concern as if it were nothing.
It's all right. I've been too focused on work and overlooked the discrepancies in Jane and Violet's relationship, which I regret. Now, I want to be more attentive to Violet.
Saying this, Kevin smiled. Fortunately, Kevin, who had an understanding boss, won the promotion on his performance. This brought us relief. Violet has regained her brightness since then. The move necessitated a school change, which initially worried us. But Violet said, "I'd rather transfer schools." In her previous environment, academic pressure had limited her playtime with friends. It seems that this led to Violet becoming isolated. However, Violet made a lot of new friends after she changed schools and became brighter. Now, she enjoys drawing her favorite illustrations and sharing them with everyone. She smiles and says she wants to be an illustrator in the future. Seeing Violet return to her original self and being happy is the most joyful thing for us. Parents worry about their children's future. And parents tend to put more rails on their children than they need. But if you make a mistake, it's just an imposition of your ideal. We keep this in mind, gently overseeing their growth. The most important thing is Violet's smile. We continue to hope that Violet will grow up healthy and happy.
After receiving shocking news from my mom, my sister, who had eloped and gone missing years ago, had returned. I headed back home with my son. Sure enough, there were women's shoes at the house. Moreover, my sister Mary came out in her underwear. She laughed and said triumphantly to me, "Aha!
I scored a luxury high-rise and a wealthy husband. You poor folks can keep working your part-time jobs forever."
But then, a voice from behind her.
"Too bad for you. Sleeping pills don't work on me anymore."
My husband, Mike, said this nonchalantly as he appeared.
"Wait, are you trying to? She's trying to create a fait accompli with me."
He burst into laughter.
"And what would that accomplish? The house is all in Sarah's name."
"Yes, the high-rise we're living in belongs to me. I got it from an inheritance from my ex-husband. My name is Sarah Smith. I'm a 34-year-old working for an organization dedicated to preserving American classical culture. My husband, Mike, a former colleague, is also studying American classics in graduate school, 3 years my junior. He's currently continuing his research while working towards his PhD. His situation allows him the flexibility to do school and activity runs for our son, Joshua, in my place. But that's not all. Honestly, Mike is far better at household chores than I am. His cooking may not be elaborate, but it's efficient. Aside from his study space, he keeps the rest of the house clean with minimal effort. And he handles laundry and related tasks more delicately and meticulously than I do. I'll take care of your life. Can I ask you to handle the household chores?" Those were roughly the words with which I proposed to him. Frankly, I fell for him precisely for these qualities. I'm just too busy to handle everything myself. "As long as you don't suffer, continue your research," I said. Even his parents were surprised. They even asked if I intended to treat their son as a gigolo, a memory that now brings a smile to my face. But after discussing our feelings, living arrangements, and our child, we got married, and he became a stay-at-home husband. It was an unusual arrangement, but we were happy and got along well. Then, something unexpected happened. It was Tuesday afternoon. As I was about to leave work for the rare occasion of picking up Joshua in place of Mike, who was preoccupied with his dissertation, I suddenly received a phone call. "Hello, Mom, what's up?" It was from my mom. Our family home is far from the urban center where we currently live, a 5 to 6 hour drive away. Since getting married, we've been visiting them for only the summer or Christmas holidays. So, we usually kept in touch through messaging on cell phones. But direct phone calls were rare. Both my parents schedule the time for me because I'm busy at work.
It's serious, Sarah.
What's the matter all of a sudden?
Mary's come back.
Mary, that's my sister, 2 years younger than me. However, we haven't seen each other for over 10 years. She ran away from home when she was 18.
Apparently, her husband's company went bankrupt.
Bankrupt?
Yes, she was banging on the intercom, saying her husband had run away in the night after racking up a huge amount of debt. And to avoid debt collectors coming after her, she used his signature without permission, got someone to sign a name, and filed for divorce.
An involuntary wow escaped my lips. So now,
I told her she couldn't stay with us, but she had the nerve to show up, and she left her daughter with us.
What? She left her behind?
Yes, she's so young. I asked her age, and I was truly shocked.
What shocked you so much?
When she arrived, I thought she was still in preschool, but she's just a year younger than Joshua.
What? A year younger than 9-year-old Joshua. Then she should be in the 2nd grade. And to think she looked like a preschooler. Mom, is she that small?
She's tiny and skinny, her skin is dry, and she's got chapped skin. For now, I've given her some snacks and let her take a shower, but she seems so uncomfortable.
My mom's voice sounded like she was holding back tears, as if she might break off her words at any moment. But I had to ask this. Mom, you're not going to kick her out, are you?
What are you saying? Of course not. No matter how good for nothing Mary might be, this child is our granddaughter. Her clothes are all tattered too.
That's good. So, Mom, where did Mary go after leaving the child? Yes, I had to ask that.
To your place, Sarah.
Why to my place?
It seems before coming to our place, she went to see some old friends, and somehow she was told you married rich.
I instinctively placed a hand on my forehead. Whoever it was telling half the story just causes trouble. Did they give her my address?
No, but it seems she got your work-related cell phone information.
My work-related cell phone. Well, that can't be helped. In my line of work, I sometimes have to use my work phone to some extent.
That's why Dad is hurrying over to your house now.
Dad is.
So please, hold the fort until then.
Wait, Mom, when did Mary leave there? Before I could get an answer, the call with my mom ended. It's just past 3 p.m. Picking up Joshua from school, then taking him to his lessons, waiting for him to finish, going shopping. Mike has been so absorbed in his work since yesterday that he won't be able to cook for tonight and all of tomorrow for sure. So, shopping is absolutely necessary. And even if he finishes writing, he's likely to fall asleep without eating. Usually, after staying up for about 3 days, he sleeps for a day and a half. But if I have to buy a lot of ready-to-make food, it looks like it will be past 6 p.m. before I know it. I'm worried about what will happen.
Wait, Mom has a sister.
Yeah, I have one.
I see.
In the car, after finishing the shopping, I decided to briefly explain the situation to Joshua. Surprised.
Not really. I mean, with our family, I figured there's always something.
Joshua, at 9 years old and in the 3rd grade, is quite bright and a bit mature for his age. Our slightly unconventional family dynamics meant he understood the situation quickly once explained. I guess he takes after his dad in that regard. As a child, I remember just squabbling simply with my sister. Compared to that, Joshua is calm and thoughtful. I'm a little worried. Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot.
Like what?
Where do I start? There are parts of the story that are okay to share with a child and parts that aren't. Remember the house where Mom and Joshua used to live?
Yeah, it's close to Grandma and Grandpa's place, right?
Mom's sister, well, she didn't like living in that town, and over a decade ago, she ran away with someone she loved.
Wow, that's kind of amazing.
Hey, Joshua. Yes, Mary ran away at 18 with the president of a startup who was nearly 40 at the time. It wasn't out of love, though. Mary was involved in compensated dating. Since she was in high school, neither I nor Mary should have had any difficulty with money. My parents also saved enough money to send us to our preferred schools. I got enough money to buy what I wanted. But it seems that wasn't enough for Mary. She went off to a prestigious university downtown, but by the end of her first year, we got a call from the school administration. Guess what? Mary was pregnant at the time. When Dad, furious, demanded to know who the dad was, Mary confessed without hesitation. That man was the one she had just divorced without permission. Angered by both the compensated dating and her partner, our parents told Mary to leave. She left without a fuss and lost contact. If it had been just leaving, we might have tracked her through her health insurance. But she married the guy. When she became a man's dependent, we couldn't keep her feet at all. Once the initial anger subsided, worry set in. No news at all felt like a breach of duty, and my parents had many reasons to be angry. They became the subject of rumors at work and in the neighborhood, feeling shunned for raising such a daughter. How could you have raised a daughter who could do such a thing? My dad was supposed to be promoted to director, but that's off the table now. And other such grievances I heard were unpleasant to recall. However, something my mom said earlier caught my attention. The child Mary left is 8 years old. That means she's not the child Mary was pregnant with all those years ago. What happened to that child? I can't help but wonder.
Mom, you're making a scary face.
Responding to Joshua's comment, I said, sorry.
Is something bothering you?
Yeah, it's about your cousin. Eventually, we arrived back at the apartment, lugging the heavy shopping bags between us. But they were too heavy. So we decided to borrow a cart from the concierge at the entrance.
Miss Smith, your sister, Miss Jones, was here earlier.
The concierge informed us. Did you let her in?
We checked and copied her ID, just to be safe.
Oh no, I covered my eyes with my palm again. I'm sorry, it's my fault for not making the rules about who can come and go clearer.
So, we shouldn't have let her in.
Well, yes, but it's okay. This time it's on me. And has my dad arrived yet?
Your dad.
Please hold on, the concierge said before going to check.
He hasn't arrived yet.
I see. Well, when my dad does arrive, please let him in right away.
Understood.
I showed a photo of my dad to the concierge, saying, make sure this person is let in no matter what. Then, we loaded our bags onto the cart and took the elevator to the top floor. We're home. And sure enough, there were women's shoes at the door.
You're back early, aren't you?
My sister, more flamboyant and aged than I remembered. But that wasn't the issue. What's with that outfit? Mary appeared in nothing but her underwear. Joshua, who had been pushing the cart alongside me, was speechless, eyes wide.
What do you mean?
She laughed and said triumphantly to me, aha.
Scored a luxury high-rise and a rich husband. Let the poor keep working their part-time jobs forever.
Joshua and I were stunned. But then from behind her came another voice.
Too bad for you. Sleeping pills don't work on me anymore.
Mike appeared behind Mary, wearing nothing but a shirt over his bare skin. Mike's appearance while scratching his shaggy head and Mary's underwear on top of each other can make it look like after an affair. But I had no such parts. I was confident that wasn't the case. I had that confidence.
Using that stuff made me lose my focus. Geez.
Wait, what? You realized it was a sleeping pill, and it didn't work.
I figured I was drugged because of the strange drowsiness, but that doesn't mean I could sleep.
That's not right.
I said, ignoring Mary's comments. Mike turned to Joshua.
Joshua, thanks for helping with the shopping.
Yay, Dad, help me put stuff away.
Pushing the cart inside, Joshua moved toward the kitchen. Okay, Mike said, following him with the cart. And he murmured in a deliberately annoyed and exaggerated tone.
I had heard from Sari about her sister, so I figured there might be something up. But I never expected to be drugged right off the bat. You know, my sleep schedule is all over the place anyway. And with all the stuff I'm thinking about lately, I don't sleep unless I really try to. So yeah, I can tell the difference between natural sleepiness and the drug-induced kind.
Mary's expression grew even more severe.
Well, I figured you were up to something, so I just played along and pretended to sleep. What's with this person?
Mike laid out his words in a calm, matter-of-fact manner. Facing his composed demeanor, Mary, who had seemed so confident at first, was left utterly dumbfounded.
What is with this guy?
There was no better way to say it. She had picked the wrong opponent. What's with you, walking around in that outfit? Were you trying to create some kind of fait accompli by stripping him and pushing him into bed? I let out a deep sigh. Well, why has she always been so foolish? But given the situation, I could guess what had happened. Mary must have learned I was living in a luxury high-rise in the metropolitan area and came here. Then, gathering information around the neighborhood as my sister living in the top-floor penthouse, she found out Mike was a stay-at-home husband doing research related to my current job. Assuming Mike would be home alone, she targeted the time I was out. From Mike's perspective, after repeatedly ignoring the doorbell, he finally answered to find a woman claiming to be my sister. with his mind still half on his dissertation. Mary probably thought, seeing a disheveled, almost pajama-clad man. So she thought like this. Wow, he's young. Did my sister score a younger, intellectual, luxury high-rise owner? That's unfair. I'll steal him. And then, probably carrying sleeping pills for some reason, she tried to drug Mike, strip him, push him into bed, and confront me with the scene. But Mary didn't know Mike. He can become so absorbed in his research and writing that he forgets both time and meals. Attempting such a thing on him was bound to fail, something I knew all too well.
Wait, she was trying to create a fait accompli with me.
Mike's voice grew louder before he erupted into laughter.
What would be the point? The house is all Sarah's, after all.
Yay, what's this aunt even talking about?
Hey, watch it, kid.
Well, technically, he can call you aunt without any issues. He's my son after all.
What? Your son? But he's so big, and he's still in his 20s, right?
Well, my sins from my previous marriage.
You remarried. So the rich husband you married.
Something you wouldn't know since you've been running away all this time. As I spoke, I was finally able to go to my room. After hanging up my coat and setting down my bag, Mike served me some tea. Glancing around, I noticed a haphazardly placed bag on the living room table. The bag makes my room feel strangely messy. I felt disgusted. I wanted to get rid of it quickly.
So, you're not going to serve me even a single cup of tea?
Mary watched me drink my tea with a resentful look. I don't really feel like serving someone who drugs their tea. And how long do you plan on staying in that outfit? I don't want a flasher roaming around my house.
First, explain yourself. How come you're the owner of this penthouse?
Oh, why can't conversations with this sister ever go smoothly? Well, I guess I have to explain for her to understand. You see, when my ex-husband passed away, he left us a lot of assets. That's how I bought this place. Paid in full, not a mortgage.
What? Paid in full by you? But this place must be worth millions.
Because that's still just 1/100th of the real estate I currently own. Mary was speechless. Yes, the top floor of this high-rise is completely mine. But that's not all. I now own numerous properties with a total asset value of $200 million. Not only can I live a comfortable life with the income from these properties, but I'm also an advisor to an organization involved in the preservation of American classical culture. Half of it is for tax strategies, and the other half is for Mike's sake. Essentially, my busy daily work involves being a director for this organization. And sometimes I get reports on land matters. Explaining this left Mary astonished.
To you, Sarah.
Yes, to me, because, Mary, you didn't know that I got married right after graduating from college, or even why.
What are you talking about?
Because of the mess you did, Dad's company's credibility plummeted, and we had a tough time.
HMMM. What does it matter what a grown daughter does?
You weren't of legal age at the time. Having a daughter involved in compensated dating from high school made it look like we couldn't even educate our child properly. Mom felt humiliated for a while. Then, I received a marriage proposal from the Brown family.
The Brown family?
Yes, the so-called lords of our hometown.
What? You married into that prestigious family?
I sighed deeply. Then Mike kindly moved Joshua away, saying, "Let's go over there for a bit." Joshua understood it was an adult conversation.
So, you married into that family?
Yes, but not the person you're thinking of. I married the elder brother, who was the heir at the time.
What? The bedridden, so-called burden of the Brown family?
Yes, it was him. Indeed, my ex-husband was referred to that way. He has been sickly since birth, has hardly been to school, and has always had a doctor. That's why they said he was the burden of the prestigious family. Indeed, the family's burden from an outsider's perspective. But that was never how his family saw him. They all loved him dearly, without any desires. He happened to fall for me during one of my visits home, seen in a hospital. The Brown lords even came to our house. My son, who had never wanted anything before, wanted only one thing, so family members came to ask me, who was more than 10 years younger than him. I married at 22, partly to widen my parents' shoulders. My husband passed away while Joshua was still in my womb. My pregnancy was through IVF, since he didn't have the strength for a natural conception, fulfilling his parents' wish and mine, and I myself agreed for the sake of my sweet ex-husband. He passed away, leaving only his name for our child, unable to see his face. Left a young widow, his parents thanked me, leaving his inheritance as per his will. However, relatives eyeing the inheritance like vultures made me move to a secure high-rise downtown when Joshua started kindergarten. How can you expect me to believe such a windfall story? Mary shook her head in disbelief. She yelled at me with a look of utter disgust on her face. Even if you say that.
So what about him now? After inheriting so much, you were allowed to remarry.
I was. Though I didn't need permission, I consulted them out of respect for my wonderful in-laws, who apologized for having me spend my best years caring for a sick man and undergoing IVF.
As if the inheritance wasn't enough.
They said life and time can't be bought with money. My kind in-laws, who had lost their beloved son to illness, understood the value of time and life well. They must have been touched by their wealth. After moving to the city center, I found myself exhausted from solo parenting, a stark contrast to the life surrounded by my in-laws. That's when I reconnected with Mike, a junior from college who had admired me. He became a great help to me, overwhelmed as I was. As he came and went, gradually Joshua grew fond of him. And I found myself wishing he would stay with us permanently, so I proposed. My in-laws described Mike as apparently harmless to anything but academics. Their support, rather than opposition, was probably also to deter relatives who were pushing their candidates for remarriage.
So, you're the only one getting a good deal.
Mary started to say when my phone's ringtone interrupted her. A call at this time meant, I switched the phone to speaker mode after answering.
Hello, Sarah. I was worried because you hadn't replied to my messages. Are you okay?
Mary groaned on the spot. Mom, I'm fine.
Good. I thought I heard a noise like stepping on a frog. Is Mary there by any chance?
Yes, she is. I looked at Mary with a full smile.
Mom, why do you know this place?
You always forget what you've said after 3 steps. Didn't you say you were going to your sister's place?
Terrible. Why do you treat my sister differently even though we're both your daughters?
Mary yelled at the phone, genuinely angry.
What? As if you have the right to say that. After you left, Sarah marrying into the Brown family ended the terrible rumors surrounding our family. It wasn't quite being outcasts, but Dad's prominent position in the company only made the rumors worse. That situation lasted only 2 years thanks to Sarah. The Brown family helped a lot, saving our neighbors, relatives, and Dad's company factions. You were about to ruin all Dad's hard work and progress in the city's most important company.
That's your problem. I never asked him to succeed.
Yet, we could attend a private college in the city because of that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you get to hold it over me.
Well, maybe you're right about that, Mary, but what about the child you had in your belly back then?
Mom's voice turned cold as she asked Mary.
What?
You ran off with your partner because you were pregnant. What happened to that child?
He took the child with him.
I managed to contact him.
No, groaned Mary.
I got his number when I looked for your whereabouts through the Brown family connection.
My mom told me so.
He apologized for running away and thanked me for the divorce. He may not have been great at making money, but he was a better person than you. He's working somewhere far away to pay off his debts alone.
Alone? I asked Mom.
Yes, alone. You can guess what that means, Sarah.
Mom had mentioned that the child Mary brought was in a terrible state. I quickly turned to Mary. You, the child?
Stop it. Why are you looking at me like that?
Mom mentioned that the daughter you left with her was terribly malnourished.
That's because things have been tough lately.
Tough for someone carrying that kind of bag. I pointed to the bag thrown on the living room table. It's clearly a designer brand, isn't it?
I bought it 2 or 3 years ago.
Mom said she is just a year younger than Joshua, yet she looks like she's in preschool, right, Mom?
Yes, she is.
My mom's voice grew even lower.
Her name is Ava, right? Has she been attending kindergarten or school regularly? She seems a bit delayed in her speech.
Of course, she has.
Grandma, is Mom over there?
A frail voice came from the other end.
Yes, Ava, do you want to talk to Mom?
No. I definitely don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to Mom's.
Ava, Mary's daughter, started crying on the other end.
I don't want to end up like my sister.
I see. The grim reality seemed to hide behind those words.
We've been talking for a bit. She seems to have had an older sister.
My mom hinted at something in the past tense. So, what happened?
I don't know anything about that.
Mary hastily tried to grab her bag and clothes.
You can't.
But Mike grabbed her arm, and Joshua secured the bag and clothes. Then, turning to another phone.
Grandpa, now's the time.
With that signal, the front door opened.
Police. We received a report of trespassing and assault, and allegations of child abuse. We are here to detain the woman involved.
Sarah, good job buying us time.
Dad. The police, about 3 of them, secured Mary on the spot.
Are you all right, Miss Smith?
Yes, I am fine. The concierge was also standing by the entrance. the one who had opened the door.
It's been a while, Mary.
Dad,
One of the officers took the clothes and bag from Joshua. A blanket, likely brought in advance, was draped over Mary since they couldn't dress her in those clothes right away. Pointing to the bag, Mike said, "I haven't checked inside, but I believe it contains sleeping pills. I'll be coming along for a blood test. I have a resistance, but it should still be in my system."
We appreciate your cooperation.
Then, over the phone, my mom asked me to switch to camera mode. The camera revealed my mom holding a small girl in her arms.
Officers, this woman seems to have subjected her first child to terrible treatment, leading to the loss of a small life, our first grandchild.
Ava was wearing clothes that Joshua had outgrown long ago. My parents still had Joshua's clothes from when he was little. Joshua, who was quite big for his age when he was about to enter kindergarten. His old clothes fits on his cousin, Ava. I saw his thin, bony wrists through the cuffs.
That's my old clothes. Hi, are you Ava?
Joshua gently spoke to his cousin over the screen. This is the kindness he received from his biological dad.
Yes. Who are you?
I'm Joshua, your cousin. I'm 1 year older, so I guess I'm your big brother.
Big brother.
With that, Ava, perhaps reminded of her lost sibling, started to cry again.
You should come and play sometime.
Okay, the girl nodded meekly through the screen.
Then, Sarah, we'll take her away now. Sorry for the intrusion. Joshua, let's play chess with Grandpa later.
Okay, I'll be waiting.
Right after our exchange.
what is this? Your own little soap opera. And here I am, having lost everything.
Hearing this, I strode towards Mary and slapped her sharply across the face.
No, violent woman. Officer, arrest her for obstructing public duties too.
While restraining Mary, who was struggling, the officer gave me a wry smile and tried to calm the situation. "I'm sorry, but I just had to say it to my sister.
What do you want?
Everything you've lost is because of your own actions. It's nobody else's fault. Nothing's coming back to you, and I won't let it. That child will be mine. Don't you ever dare get involved with us again."
Let's go, everyone.
Mike urged my dad.
All right, see you later, Sarah.
"I'll be waiting, Dad. Take care, you all." After seeing them off, I collapsed onto the couch.
Are you okay, Mom?
I'm just really tired.
It's good we did the shopping today. Oh,
Indeed. What a day it had been. To think it had only been 6 hours since Mom's call. Later, Dad and Mike returned to say Mary would be detained by the police for a while.
No bail. Absolutely not.
Dad declared over a late dinner, his voice strained. She's already divorced, so there's no one on her side to take her in. Let's just get her tried quickly. Eventually, Mary was sentenced to actual jail time. She had caused her family back home great distress, led to the death of one child, and was now abandoned by the remaining child. Sometime later, my parents brought Ava to live with us.
you've become so pretty.
Joshua's words made Ava's face turn red.
Where did you learn to talk like that, huh?
Dad, stop. It tickles. Stop.
Joshua laughed, playing with Mike. Watching this scene of an adoptive dad and son, Ava looked on in amazement.
Are you sure, Auntie?
She mumbled about staying with us. I had prepared myself to adopt her, believing it to be the best course of action. Initially, I considered letting her grow up with my parents. However, they feared she might endure stigma as that girl's child in our hometown. My parents planned to move closer to me after retirement. We settled on the idea of traveling together for the summer holidays and Christmas. Ava seems a bit behind in her studies, making it difficult for her to attend the same school as Joshua. Yet, our life promises to be far better than her previous one. With the source of turmoil gone, we can now focus on finding happiness. We have plenty of time.
I just got a call from the hospital saying that Emily was rushed there in an emergency. Hurry to the hospital. I'm at home right now, but I'll head there immediately, my husband, Daniel, said. I was momentarily confused by what he meant. Then, puzzled, I replied, I'm at my parents' house right now, but what do you mean? Did the hospital really call? Daniel, clearly irritated, said, Yes, that's why I'm telling you to hurry up. But as I looked at my daughter, sleeping next to me, I said, Emily's right here sleeping next to me, though. Hearing this, Daniel was speechless and just uttered, Oh? My name is Laura Thompson. I'm a 33-year-old housewife. I live with my daughter, Emily, and Daniel, who is 2 years older than me. Emily, who just turned 10 and is in the 4th grade. I quit my full-time job when Emily was born, but started working part-time when she entered elementary school. Daniel graduated from a top university and works for a leading trading company in the U.S. We met in college when a friend invited me to a drinking party, where we happened to sit next to each other. We exchanged contacts and occasionally met up for movies and coffee. We weren't in a serious relationship, but I didn't mind meeting him. Maybe I bragged a bit to my friends about having a friend from a prestigious university. However, after meeting a few times, Daniel asked me out, and we started dating. I wasn't particularly in love, but I didn't dislike him either. Honestly, I tend to go with the flow and make decisions based on others' influence. When Daniel asked for my contact, I wasn't particularly attracted to him, but I gave it to him anyway, and I hung out with him, just to avoid the hassle of saying no. I've always thought life is easier when someone else makes decisions. So when Daniel proposed after graduation, I accepted without much thought. I figured being married to someone successful meant I wouldn't have to worry about money. My friends envied me for marrying an elite, but I wasn't particularly moved. On the other hand, Daniel has always been considered a prodigy and confidently made his own decisions, believing they were always right. Honestly, he can be quite condescending, which is why I think many people dislike him. For Daniel, I must have been easy to control, so he probably found me easy to deal with. I think he married me more for convenience than love. In fact, I always let him make decisions, and if he opposes something I want to do, I immediately give it up. It's tiring to fight for what I want, and there's rarely anything I want that much. Since we started dating, there's been a clear hierarchy in our relationship. Daniel often says, Laura, you can't do anything without me. Whenever I express a different opinion, he says, How dare you go against my opinion, Laura? You should just do as I say. Many people would see this as condescending, When I mentioned this to a friend, she was concerned and said, "It's totally wrong. But in my mind, our marriage works, so it must be fine." There are as many right ways to have a marriage as there are couples. That's what I always tell myself. Until that day. One day, during Emily's summer break, we decided to stay at my parents' house for a few days. My parents wanted to see their granddaughter, so we planned a short visit. Of course, I discussed it with Daniel well in advance. He readily agreed. I was glad, as I would have canceled it if he had opposed it. Daniel couldn't join us because of work, but that wasn't an issue, as my parents just wanted to see Emily. "Say hi to your folks for me," he said as we left. My parents' house is about a 30-minute drive away. When we visited, my parents welcomed us warmly. It had been over half a year since our last visit. I always think about visiting them more often, but it's hard with our busy schedules.
When a housewife slacks off on her chores, it's the same as me not going to work. It's negligence. You seem to think that working a part-time job counts as real work, but that's hardly the case at all. There's no real responsibility involved, so it's just like a hobby. A real job, like mine, involves significant responsibility and comes with a salary that reflects that.
I don't visit my parents too often because I can tell it makes him grumpy. So once every 6 months is just about right. Despite this, he doesn't help at all with the housework or childcare. He has no idea how tough it is to juggle a part-time job, house chores, and looking after our daughter. Of course, expressing such complaints would only lead to more scolding from him, so I keep quiet, but the dissatisfaction is definitely building up inside. My mom always says it must be tough for me, so I should relax and take it easy, and I decided to take her words to heart to recharge. She even cooked lunch for me. Mom's cooking is always so delicious. It may sound old-fashioned to talk about Mom's cooking, but there's something special about the taste you've grown up with. I can always relax when I'm at my parents' house. Since some of my old friends still live in the neighborhood, I thought about inviting them over for to eat later. As I was thinking about this, I felt full and content. I dozed off. Emily joined me in a nap. Soon, I was woken up by the sound of my phone ringing in the distance. It was a call from Daniel.
I can't understand people who still use phones. They are old. People who prefer phone calls over messaging must be incompetent at their jobs. With texts or emails, you can convey just the essentials and the recipient can check them at their convenience. Phone calls, on the other hand, are intrusive, disregarding the other person's situation, and you can't just hang up after stating your business, leading to wasted time. It's not cost-effective at all. Don't call me unless it's really necessary.
He insists, so I knew he must really hate phone calls. Once when I called him, he lectured me for ages about forgetting his dislike for them. Of course, I've almost never gotten calls from him. I can barely remember the last time he called me. He is now calling me, which must mean something urgent. Feeling a bit anxious, I answered the phone. It was unusual for him to sound so flustered, as he said, "Emily was just rushed to the hospital. Hurry up and get there. I'm at home now, but I'll head over too." For a moment, I couldn't grasp what he was saying. Confused, I replied, "What? I'm at my parents' house right now, but what do you mean? Did the hospital really call?" Annoyed, Daniel said, "Yes, That's why I'm telling you to hurry. However, looking at my daughter sleeping next to me, I said, Emily's right here sleeping next to me, though. Hearing this, Daniel just muttered, "Oh," and was at a loss for words. What could this mean? I was completely baffled, so I asked him, was it just the wrong number? But you believed it and were so worried, so it must have seemed real, right? Suddenly, he snapped, "Shut up. If it was a mistake, then there's no problem," and hung up the phone. What was all that about? It's unlike Daniel to make a wrong number call and even contact me about it. He's always calm and doesn't make a call unless he's sure. If he had any doubts, he would have probably sent a message first. I couldn't believe it was just a wrong number, so I decided to call the hospital myself. I told the receptionist Daniel's name and that I was his wife, and they transferred me to someone in charge.
Yes, Daniel's daughter has indeed been brought here. Please come to the hospital as soon as possible. She's not in a life-threatening condition, but she collapsed in the middle of the street. The preliminary test didn't find anything unusual, but we don't know the cause of her collapse, so she'll be admitted for further testing.
When I asked if they were sure it was Daniel's daughter, they replied she had Daniel's wallet with her and said it was her dad's, so we're pretty sure. The wallet had his driver's license in it, and she recognized him from the photo. They had contacted him using the business card in the wallet. It all made sense. But since my daughter, Emily, was sleeping right next to me, it couldn't be her. The more I thought about it, the more confused I became. As I was trying to make sense of it all, the person on the phone asked, "You are Daniel's wife, right? So you're her mother, and will be coming over, right?" I tend to agree to things when asked, so I instinctively said, "Oh, yes. I'm on my way." After hanging up, I thought to myself, what's the point of me going there if it's just some unknown girl admitted to the hospital? But since I said I'd go, I felt I had to. I was also curious about why the girl had Daniel's wallet. The most likely explanation seemed to be that she had found the wallet and mistook it for her father's. I asked my parents to look after Emily and headed to the hospital alone. It wasn't too far, just about a 30-minute drive. Luckily, the traffic wasn't bad, and I arrived in about 30 minutes as expected. At the hospital, I gave Daniel's name at the reception, and a nurse led me to the room of the girl who had his wallet. They said she could talk, as she didn't seem to have any physical injuries or illness. When I entered the room, I saw a girl about the same age as Emily sleeping there. The nurse cheerfully said, "Your mom is here." The girl woke up. But since I wasn't her mother, she naturally asked the nurse, "Mom's here. Where is she?" The nurse, thinking I was her mother, said, "Right in front of you." The girl looked at me, confused, and said, "This lady isn't my mom. I don't know her. Who is she?" as she turned to the nurse. The nurse was surprised and asked, "Wait, is there some mistake? You're not her mom. Could you look again?" But the girl firmly denied again, saying, "Definitely not. She's not my mom. I've never seen her before." Hearing this, the nurse's face stiffened with a look of disbelief. She turned to me, now filled with distrust, and asked, "Who are you?" Thinking it's better to be honest rather than causing more confusion, I explained, "Actually, I heard that a girl with my husband's wallet was brought to the hospital, and I came to find out why." The nurse, confused, asked, "You mean you're the wife of the wallet's owner? But if you're not this girl's mother, what's going on?" "I have no idea either. Daniel hasn't told me anything." I then turned to the girl to clear things up. "Hi there, I'm Laura. What's your name?" The girl replied openly, "I'm Michelle, Michelle Johnson." The name Johnson rang a bell. I remembered a woman named Emily Johnson among Daniel's colleagues at our wedding. She was quite close to Daniel, which struck me as odd. Despite my presence, she had taken photos with him, arms draped around each other, and even hugged him to offer congratulations. I remembered complaining about their excessive closeness. Daniel had explained she was just more physically affectionate, but I couldn't shake off a feeling of suspicion. The girl shared the same last name as that woman. The surname Johnson is easy to remember. As far as I know, I'm only aware of one person with that name. Dismissing this as a coincidence seems far-fetched. Fearing the worst, but keeping calm, I continued talking to Michelle. "I'm a friend of your dad. He's busy with work and can't come, so he asked me to check on you. I heard you have his wallet. Is that true? He asked me to confirm it. Can I see it?" Michelle obediently showed me the wallet, which I recognized immediately as Daniel's. In fact, I had given it to him as a birthday present, so there was no mistaking it. There was no doubt now. "Can I see what's inside, just to be sure?" I asked. She showed me, and it contained Daniel's business cards and driver's license. This confirmed it was indeed his wallet. But there was a chance Michelle was mistaken. So I asked, just to double check, "What's your dad's name?" She promptly replied, "My dad's name is Daniel Thompson. He works at the same company as my mom." This wasn't a misunderstanding. Moreover, she said her mom worked at the same company as Daniel. My worst fears seemed to be becoming reality, but I had to be sure. I asked Michelle why her last name was different from her dad's, but she hesitated and didn't provide a clear answer. "But Mom said she's going to change her last name to his soon," was all she said. Taking a leap, I asked, "Is your mom's name Emily, by any chance?" She confirmed, "Yes, that's right. Are you friends with her too?" My suspicions were confirmed. Just as I was grappling with this shocking revelation, I heard a voice from behind.
"Hey, what are you doing here?"
It was Daniel. I was surprised, but it made sense for him to be here, since his daughter was hospitalized. Plus, he knew about the wallet with his driver's license. Trying to remain calm, I asked, "Why are you here? You were angry about a wrong number earlier. So if you're here, does that mean it wasn't a wrong number after all?" I wanted to hear his explanation. He awkwardly said, "I came because I heard someone had my wallet. Maybe she found it after I lost it." Michelle then clarified, "Dad left it at our house when he visited. I was bringing it back to him, but collapsed on the way."
What are you talking about? Maybe she hit her head when she collapsed, or the medication is affecting her. She must be mistaking me for her dad. Hope her real dad shows up soon. I'll take the wallet then.
In his explanation, Daniel, flustered, talked over Michelle's words and forcibly took the wallet from her. Michelle, upset by Daniel's incomprehensible actions and his forceful taking of the wallet, ended up crying. Ignoring her tears, he said, "I'm leaving now. You're heading back too, right? See you then," and quickly left. As Daniel and I were about to leave the hospital room, he bumped into a man entering. "Oh, sorry," Daniel said, trying to continue on. But the man stopped him.
Excuse me, aren't you Daniel?
Daniel, not expecting to hear his name here, responded with surprise. "Yes, that's me, but who might you be?" It was clear he didn't recognize the man. The man glanced at Michelle and whispered, "Perhaps you'll understand if I say I'm her grandfather." Hearing this, I couldn't help but exclaim in shock. Daniel was even more astonished. His eyes were wide and mouth was trembling. Obviously, he was struggling to find words, but he couldn't say anything. The man said, "I need to talk to you about something not suitable in front of the child. Could you step outside for a moment? It won't take long." Daniel, pale-faced, followed him out of the room. Wanting to be part of the conversation, I followed them and asked the man, "May I join you?" He initially hesitated, saying the conversation was extremely private. But when I quickly stated, "I'm actually his wife," he looked surprised and nodded in acknowledgement. Daniel, seemingly not wanting me there, tried to object, but was silenced by the man's stern gaze. We left the hospital and entered a nearby cafe. The man introduced himself as Tom Johnson. "I'm Michelle's grandfather. You're Daniel's wife. I'm terribly sorry for what my daughter, Emily, has done. Please forgive us." He apologized sincerely. I had my suspicions, but needed confirmation. Johnson revealed a shocking truth.
I only found out today from my daughter that Michelle is actually my granddaughter. Emily left home about 10 years ago to live alone, and I didn't know she was raising a child as a single mother.
He continued, explaining. As expected, hearing it from someone else was quite shocking.
Today, when she happened to return to our home, that man, Daniel, called our daughter. After the call, she visibly became suspicious. Upon questioning, she confessed to having a 10-year-old child. She probably panicked when she heard her daughter was hospitalized. Otherwise, she might not have confessed, so the timing of the call was fortunate. For that man, it must have been the worst timing, though.
Tom explained how he came to be involved. Then I asked, and she also confessed that the father is Daniel, right? He nodded in agreement.
Yes, exactly. I came to the hospital after learning that the father of the child is a married man. My daughter told me the child's father would come to retrieve his wallet.
Looking at Daniel, he was trembling. I thought he was trembling out of regret for his misdeeds. But then, he suddenly shouted angrily, "What the hell? She told everything. This is ridiculous." He was shaking with anger, not remorse. His behavior, especially in front of his mistress's father, was unbelievable. Was he really such a person? I thought he was proud, but I didn't expect him to lack any sense of ethics. I felt deeply ashamed to be his wife. Naturally, Tom was furious at his words.
Do you realize what you're saying? I admit my daughter did something terrible to your wife, but you are not blameless. In fact, you should be apologizing to us. What are you misunderstanding?
His anger was justified. But then Daniel said something unbelievable.
Blameless? What are you talking about? Making me feel this uncomfortable is a huge sin. Why should I apologize to you? Being able to have my child should be considered a blessing. You should be thanking me.
He was completely unrepentant, looking down on us instead. Where did he get such confidence? I couldn't tolerate it anymore. So I said, "Unbelievable. You're just defying having an affair and a secret child. I can't live with someone like you. We're definitely getting a divorce." Daniel was shocked and confused, as I had always followed his decisions without question. "What are you saying? You can't do anything without me. You should just obey what I decide. There's no way we're getting a divorce," he exclaimed. But my decision was firm. I couldn't possibly live with such a terrible person. It would be detrimental to my daughter's upbringing. Fortunately, she was with my parents, so I decided to go home, pack up my essentials, and stay with my parents. I couldn't stand being in the same space as Daniel anymore. I've heard enough. I'm leaving. I don't think we'll ever see each other again, unless it's in court, I said and left, ignoring Daniel's red-faced protests. When I returned home and told my parents everything, they were furious and supported my decision to divorce. They said my daughter and I could live with them, so I no longer had to worry about a place to stay. Later, Daniel tried to resist the divorce, leading to mediation. Due to having a secret child, he was in a disadvantaged position, and the divorce was granted mostly in my favor. I received a considerable amount of alimony, which must have been a blow to him. However, that wasn't the end. Tom, the father of Daniel's mistress, turned out to be a senior executive at one of Daniel's client companies. Unaware of this, Daniel had insulted him. Daniel didn't know him since Dom wasn't his direct client contact, but of course, such disrespect would be unforgivable. Tom reported directly to the company about a married man in their ranks having an affair with his daughter, saying he couldn't do business with a company harboring such a man. The company, to avoid losing a major client, significantly reduced Daniel's salary and transferred him to a subsidiary. Being a man of pride, he resigned. He thought he could easily find another job due to his elite university background. However, his egocentric nature was evident in interviews, and he failed to secure a position at any company he applied to. He ended up at a small firm with even lower pay than the subsidiary he had refused. In such a place, boasting about his high education only made him a subject of ridicule. Desperate with his dire situation, Daniel contacted me, attempting reconciliation. When I firmly stated that there was no way I would reconcile with someone heartless, he then demanded to see our daughter. Daniel claimed that it was his right as a father to see our daughter, but Emily, being 10 years old, surprisingly understands what her father did and has firmly said she doesn't want to meet him. He seemed to have given up after I told him this. I'm relieved to hear my daughter's words. It seems she's growing up well. Michelle, who was hospitalized, underwent thorough examinations, but nothing serious was found. She has been discharged and is now living happily with her mother. It appears she fainted due to a slight case of anemia, so I'm relieved. Following the incident, Michelle has also expressed that she doesn't want to see her father. She's innocent in all of this, so I hope she can forget her father's existence and find happiness. Thankfully, she has her grandfather's financial support, so there's no need to worry. Speaking of which, I also received alimony as compensation for the affair, both from Daniel and his mistress. In a way, I'm grateful to them for providing the impetus for our divorce. Emily, the mistress, seemed genuinely remorseful and insisted that I accept the alimony, so I did. My hard work at my part-time job was recognized, and I was happily hired as a full-time employee. With the alimony from both Daniel and his mistress, I don't foresee any financial difficulties ahead. I plan to work hard and live a joyful life with my daughter.
Here you are, a wedding gift for you. Enjoy your life with our son.
For the wedding, my mother-in-law, Mary, gave me a teddy bear. It was a cute gift, but I couldn't genuinely be happy about it. After all, Mary has been giving me a hard time, and we've had our share of arguments. Yet, she suddenly gives me a wedding gift. What's with the sudden change of heart? Feeling uneasy, I decided to talk to my mom back home. The moment she saw the stuffed animal, she yelled at me.
"Get rid of it now. That teddy bear is."
Upon learning the truth, I found myself rushing to the police station. My name is Sarah. I'm 28. I work from home. I've been married to Tom for a year. We don't have kids yet, but our marriage is happy. I met Tom at the gym we both go to. He helped me when I was struggling with a machine.
Are you okay? This machine can be tricky, but it works like this.
Oh, thank you so much. It suddenly stopped, and I was really in a bind. We hit it off and started dating a few weeks later. On my birthday, a year after we started dating, he proposed. Being married to Tom has been wonderful, but I've had my concerns. It's my relationship with Mary that hasn't been going well. When we visited Tom's family home to introduce ourselves, I was shocked to see his home. It was a mansion surrounded by a large estate. Apparently, Tom's father is quite wealthy. Tom himself is a down-to-earth guy, and he's not a big spender, so I didn't realize his family was rich.
My dad always says not to depend too much on money. You never know what will happen, so he advises earning and saving as much as possible on your own. That's why I don't like to waste money.
Tom explained with a wry smile. When I finally met my in-laws, I think Mary had been against me from the start. While John, my father-in-law, was welcoming, Mary seemed to glare at me with a bad mood throughout. During the meal, John kept talking to me, but Mary was silent the whole time. After some conversation, Mary suddenly sighed.
Of all people, you brought home a remote worker, just using work as an excuse to play on the computer at home, right? That's not respectable. Tom, it's not too late to call off the wedding.
I was shocked when she suddenly said that. Despite working hard, being labeled as not respectable hurt. John and Tom quickly defended me, saying, "Don't say such rude things, and Sarah's working hard." Yet, even after being reprimanded, Mary continued to grumble.
Why should I be scolded? I'm just thinking about what's best for Tom. Besides, she's plain and not impressive at all. I've always said I wanted Emily to marry into the family.
Emily is Mary's niece and Tom's cousin. She's a typical American beauty with blonde hair and a serious personality, making her Mary's favorite. She's been pushing Emily as a bride for Tom since he was young. However, it seems neither Tom nor Emily had any interest in each other. Tom appears to have no romantic feelings for Emily, feeling more indifferent about it.
We've known each other since we were kids. We're close, but it's more like siblings. I can't suddenly develop romantic feelings now. Plus, Emily has a handsome boyfriend, so I'm not even in her league.
In romance novels, childhood friend love stories are common, but maybe that's just not how reality works. Since Mary's mood didn't improve, we decided to leave. On our way home, Tom apologized to me several times.
I'm really sorry about my mom. She's been holding a grudge about Emily and took it out on you. I'll have a talk with my dad about it later.
Seeing Mary's behavior made me wonder if continuing with the marriage was the right decision. But I still wanted to marry Tom, and I'm not one to back down easily. I secretly decided to prove Mary wrong after we got married. After we got married, we moved into a guest house on John's property, following his suggestion. A guest house is a place where travelers or tourists stay temporarily.
As you get older, it's easy to lose touch with friends. We've been keeping it clean, but it hasn't been used in years. It would be great if you guys could live here.
The guest house was immaculately clean and spacious, much more comfortable than a typical house, though it hadn't been used for years. After discussing with Tom, I decided to take up his father's generous offer. However, this led to a troublesome issue. Mary, living on the same property, began to visit frequently without any reason. She would come over and announce, criticizing things like the house isn't clean enough or your cooking is bad. She also complained about my remote work, saying, real work is done outside, you're just slacking off.
If Emily had been the daughter-in-law, none of this would have happened. She's good at household chores and perfect in every way. I really wonder what Tom sees in you. There were plenty of better options.
I received such snide remarks when Tom wasn't around. Initially, I tried to argue back, but Mary kept twisting my words, constantly complaining. Gradually, I realized that dealing with her was just causing me stress. Since then, no matter what she said, I would just apologize dismissively and let her words go in one ear and out the other. She was clearly frustrated by this attitude. I hoped this would make her back off, but it didn't. Realizing I wouldn't respond to her complaints and nagging, Mary resorted to direct harassment. She would deliberately hide community newsletters from me and not pass on messages from neighbors. Because of this, I missed community work and was reprimanded for not attending events. One day, while I was folding laundry, she intentionally messed it up or touched it with dirty hands, staining it. She rummaged through my fridge, took food and treats without asking. If I ordered something online, she would open it without permission, inspecting the clothes or accessories and berating me for being extravagant. With actual harm starting to occur, I was utterly fed up. Realizing that this couldn't be ignored, I decided to confront Mary directly. Please stop this nonsense, Mary. Even if you resent me because of Emily, isn't this a bit too much? Why do you persistently harass me like this? I confronted her, arms crossed, standing firmly. Then Mary, slightly taken aback by my determination, quickly retorted,
I went through tough times as a bride too, but I never complained to my mother-in-law like you. You really are strong-willed. Once you marry in, shouldn't you serve and not defy your husband's parents?
That's outdated thinking. Just because you experienced harassment as a bride, you think it's okay to do the same to me.
Yes, I do. Is that bad? I'm telling you, I have no intention of stopping. I can't accept a woman like you as Tom's wife. If you don't like it, just divorce him and leave.
Faced with Mary's absurd response, I was speechless with disbelief. Dealing with her was a waste of time. I didn't want to worry Tom, but it seemed I had no choice. When I talked to him about his mother, Tom was distressed.
What is my mother doing? I've told her so many times not to bother you. And now she's involving the neighbors in her harassment.
Bad-mouthing is one thing, but it's really troubling when she dirties my laundry or takes things from the fridge without permission.
I'm sorry for the trouble. I'll have a serious talk with my mother.
That night, Tom and Mary had an argument at our house. Despite her tearful pleas, he firmly told her, "Cut it out. I won't forgive you if this happens again." Thanks to that, Mary stopped coming to our house for a while. I was relieved, thinking we could finally have some peaceful days. But Mary wasn't going to give up that easily. A week after she stopped visiting, our doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened the door, there stood Mary with a broad smile on her face. For some reason, she was holding a cute teddy bear. I was puzzled and didn't know what to make of the situation. Mary, what brings you here today? She responded with a meek attitude.
I'm sorry for everything. Getting scolded by Tom was a wake-up call. It was childish of me to take out my frustrations about Emily on you.
Well, I'm glad you understand.
Actually, this is to apologize. I realized I never properly gave you a wedding gift, so I thought this teddy bear would be nice. Isn't it cute? I wish you and Tom happiness.
She insisted on giving me the teddy bear. I thanked her, but it didn't make sense to me. I don't particularly like teddy bears. I'm not even interested in stuffed animals. For a wedding gift, something practical like dishes, kitchenware, bedding, or appliances would have been more appropriate. Or even accessories or decorations, if not practical items. Giving a stuffed animal to a daughter-in-law, especially after our recent conflicts, seemed odd. Could there be some hidden motive? Feeling uneasy, I messaged my mom, who lives nearby, and went to show her the teddy bear. I've consulted her many times about the harassment from Mary. When I arrived and showed the teddy bear to my mom, her usually calm face tensed up suddenly.
Sarah, your dad bought some sweets as a souvenir. Let's leave the teddy bear in the living room and have some coffee first. Help me get things ready.
While finding her behavior odd, I went to the kitchen. Right after I arrived, my mom grabbed my shoulder with an intense expression.
You need to get rid of that stuff quickly. Otherwise, something terrible will happen.
What? What happened all of a sudden? Is there something wrong with the teddy bear?
Calm down and listen. That stuffed animal is.
After hearing the reason, I was speechless at Mary's outrageous behavior. At the same time, I ran out of patience. I see, so that's the reason. Then I have to give something back, too. I placed the teddy bear in the living room and waited for Tom to come home. When he arrived and saw the teddy bear, he asked, "Isn't it cute? Did you buy this?" "Welcome home? No, this is a wedding gift from your mother."
From Mom. Why would she give a teddy bear?
I called him to the hallway to explain the situation and asked for his help with my plan. He nodded solemnly. A few hours later, Tom and I were having a huge argument. You preferred Emily because she was nicer. So you really wanted to marry her, just as your mom said.
I never said that. You're overthinking it.
As the argument heated up, we exchanged harsh words.
That's it. Marrying a nasty woman like you was a mistake. Let's get divorced right now.
The moment Tom said that, Mary burst into our house. She had a broad smile on her face.
Tom, you finally understand. Yes, she is the worst wife. Strong-willed, not cute at all, and so presumptuous. I always thought she was not right for you. Divorce her immediately and kick her out of this house.
After gleefully saying this, Mary began to look puzzled. Of course, she would be, since Dom and I, who were supposedly fighting fiercely just moments ago, were now looking at her with cold eyes. I then slowly said to her, "You noticed we were fighting, didn't you? Quite the timing to enter our home."
It was just a hunch. I just felt it.
She quickly defended, but her eyes were darting around. It was clear she was lying. I confronted her with the truth. "Don't lie, tell the truth. You rigged a teddy bear with a surveillance camera and a bug, didn't you?" Hearing this, Mary froze. The surveillance camera and a bug things was something my mom noticed and told me about when I went back home. She realized it because she saw a similar crime reported on the news. A creeper had given a woman a stuffed animal with a camera and wiretap hidden inside to spy on her life. So when my mom heard that Mary gave me a teddy bear, she suspected something. Indeed, her suspicion was confirmed when Mary quickly came over after Tom and I pretended to argue. I continued. On my way back from my parents' house, I went to the police station to report this. They said they would come here to talk about it soon, so they should be arriving any minute now. Upon hearing this, Mary started to panic.
That's ridiculous. Don't joke about this. Calling the police over such a thing is an overreaction. Call them back and cancel it right now.
Such a thing? Planting cameras and listening devices in someone's home is a serious crime.
It's your fault. You were so insolent that I thought I should find something to hold over you. My judgment was right, setting me up with such a despicable method. You are an outrageous woman.
She tried to shift the blame and lashing out in anger. Finally, Tom lost his temper with her.
Cut it out. I've never felt so ashamed to be your son, Mom. I thought you regretted mistreating Sarah, but then you go and do this.
Please don't be angry, Tom. I was doing it for you.
For me, so committing a crime is okay. I shouldn't have gone easy on you just because you're my mother. I'm going to report this to Dad, and I'm cutting ties with you. Don't ever come near Sarah and me again.
At Tom's words, his mother screamed. Trying to apologize through tears, Tom stopped her. You're apologizing to the wrong person. She then turned to me in panic.
Sarah, I'm sorry. I thought I was losing Tom to you and did something stupid. I truly regret it. I won't go against you again. Please forgive me.
Despite her desperate apologies, it was too late for me. After all the trouble she caused, including sending that creepy teddy bear, there was no way I could forgive her. I will never forgive you. I tried to reach out to you many times, and you ruined it. How could I forgive being given such a disgusting gift?
I really regret it.
Sorry only works for little kids. As an adult, you need to handle your own responsibilities. She continued to wail, but neither Tom nor I felt any sympathy. Later, the police arrived at our house, and she received a stern warning. Weeks later, she was divorced by John and kicked out of the house. Apparently, John had been harboring frustrations due to her frivolous spending of his money. Adding her harassment of me and the teddy bear incident, he lost all love for her. Now she lives in a small, old apartment, struggling through a miserable life with multiple part-time jobs. I hope she takes this chance to reflect on her actions. As for me, I live a peaceful life surrounded by the kind Tom and John. In a few months, we are expecting our long-awaited baby. We are eagerly anticipating the day our baby is born.
One day, I went to a high-end sushi restaurant with 7 of my mom friends. We have a reservation for 6 under the name of Smith, said the boss mom, Emily, clearly. Then, looking at me with a mean smile, she said, "Thanks for booking the seats for us. I've changed the number of people so you, who are not our friend, can go home." The other mom friends snickered. "Sure, enjoy your meal." I said that as I walked away from the elite mom group. Later, a staff member came to me, and the faces of the elite moms turned pale. "My name is Cindy Smith, a 42-year-old housewife. I have a same-age husband and a 17-year-old son. We live a modest yet peaceful life in a quiet residential area. My husband, Dave, is a hard-working man who values family time despite his demanding job. My son, Eric, has been accepted into a university with a strong soccer program as he loves soccer and seems busy making memories with his friends during his last year of high school. Now that parenting has somewhat settled down, I've started to have more time with my friends. One evening, I received a notification on my phone from an old group chat. It's been almost 5 years since anyone posted in that group chat.
Since everyone's children seem to be graduating safely next March, I thought we could have a celebration party.
It was from Emily, the boss mom. Then, one after another, other members expressed their agreement with stamps like "okay" and "looking forward to it." I just watched a conversation without responding. Then came a unilateral notification from Emily. The party will be at the famous high-end sushi restaurant Isomaru. Cindy, you're okay to be the organizer this time, right? I thought to myself, why me? I haven't met these people in over 5 years privately. When I didn't respond, just like before, the other moms quickly expressed their agreement. Since everyone agrees, Cindy, please take care of it, said Emily. Her words made it seem like I was the organizer this time. Maybe it's time to settle things, I muttered to myself and picked up my phone. It goes back 10 years ago. It all started when our family moved to this town due to my husband's job transfer. At that time, my son Eric was in the 2nd grade. Leaving friends from his kindergarten behind, we were both anxious as we headed to his new elementary school. Following my husband's suggestion, we applied to the nearest private elementary school, and Eric was successfully enrolled. My son made his debut at the private elementary school right after transferring. After finishing the paperwork and seeing him to his classroom, I had some time before picking him up, so I walked back home alone through the school. That's when I saw a lady, dressed like an upper-class lady, chatting with a few teachers. She looked as though she was expressing her opinions, which seemed to be troubling the teachers. Feeling awkward but not wanting to take a detour, I tried to pass by them unnoticed. Just as I was passing, the conversation seemed to end, and the lady spoke to me.
Oh, I haven't seen you before. Which child's parent are you?
Hello. Starting today, my son Eric is transferring to the 2nd grade here. I'm Cindy Smith. The lady looked me up and down as if sizing me up, from my toes to my head, and then asked with curiosity-filled eyes, "Oh, how unusual. Mid-year transfer to our school. Is there some kind of situation you're in?" I felt a bit uneasy. I thought to myself, who is she? She's too formal to be a parent, yet too blunt to be a teacher. "Excuse me, but who are you?" I asked cautiously. "Oh dear, I forgot to introduce myself. It's been years since there's anyone who doesn't know me. I'm a parent just like you. It seems we have children in the same grade. I'm Emily, mother of Jeff Alder." To my surprise, she was also a parent. Before I knew it, the teachers from earlier had disappeared. Could she be what they call a helicopter parent? I thought it was best to keep my distance. This was how I first met Emily. I was working at the time, so I figured our paths wouldn't cross much. But as luck would have it, Emily's son and my son ended up in the same class, and we would see each other during school events. Somehow, Emily took a liking to me, and I found myself among her circle of elite mom friends. I would have preferred to keep my distance, but fearing that any discord between us parents might affect our children, I decided to maintain a minimal relationship with Emily and the others for my son, Eric's sake. However, aside from me, the other moms seemed to be from a different world, having been close since their kids attended the associated preschool, leaving me completely isolated. I often thought about leaving the group, but it seemed my stories from outside their world were of interest to them, serving as fodder for their superiority complex. It wasn't pleasant, but I endured it for Eric's sake. However, a minor incident caused a rift between me and the group of mom friends. When our sons were in 6th grade, I was called in by their homeroom teacher, which made me nervous. I felt a little flutter inside. More often than not, Being called in by a teacher meant something bad. Did he get into a fight? Did he cheat on a test? Surely not Eric. As I headed to the school filled with anxiety, I was led to the reception room where the principal, vice principal, the homeroom teacher, and I were to meet. I apologize for calling you in suddenly, especially when you have work. The principal started with a smile. It didn't seem like Eric had done anything wrong, but still, I replied cautiously, "No problem at all. Has Eric done something?" Seeing my apprehensive response, they laughed. The teacher explained, "I'm sorry to have startled you. We called you here because we have a request for you." In summary, this school wanted me to plan that year's school trip because I work in the travel industry. Eric had mentioned my job during a school assignment, and the school had been looking for fresh ideas for the trip, as they had been going to the same place every year. It was a flattering request, but feeling anxious about planning it alone, I decided to survey the students for their preferences, ensuring the plan would fit within the budget. Eventually, we settled on a trip to Hawaii. As I became more involved in planning the school trip, I found myself at the school more frequently. One day, I ran into Emily. She seemed a bit upset and said,
"Hey, Cindy, I heard from the teachers that you planned this school trip. Is that true?"
"Well, it was based on a survey among the students. Hawaii received the most votes and it fit our budget, so that's what we chose based on the students' wishes." As I explained, Emily interjected, "Unbelievable.
Did you know my child attends a modeling academy? The UV rays in Hawaii in June could cause sunburn. How could someone like you, just because you work part-time at a travel agency, decide on the school trip destination?"
I was taken aback by her barrage of criticism, and before I knew it, the other moms were standing behind Emily, looking at me with cold eyes. As I wondered how to defuse the situation, the homeroom teacher and vice principal came over and explained the situation. Emily seemed unsatisfied and said, "We'll discuss this in the principal's office," before disappearing with the vice principal and homeroom teacher. The remaining moms continued to look at me coldly. Fortunately, a call from work gave me an excuse to leave the uncomfortable situation. The principal, vice principal, and homeroom teacher managed to pacify Emily, and the children were able to go on their school trip without issue. According to Eric, Emily's son, Jeff, ended up enjoying Hawaii the most and was the most excited. Since the kids were happy, I was hopeful that would ease Emily's anger. Just as I thought that way, the night after the school trip, Emily posted in the mom group chat, "Cindy, thank you for planning such a wonderful trip for the kids. I'm sorry for being harsh." Following her, the other moms also posted their thanks. I was glad they came around. It was quite relieving. When the kids were about to enter middle school, Emily posted on the group chat, "How about we celebrate everyone making it to middle school by taking a little trip together with the kids?" Then one of the moms suggested, "That sounds great. How about going to Universal Studios? We can rent a minibus." One by one, everyone started to agree. I was just watching the conversation quietly when Emily called me out specifically. "Cindy, are you listening? It's your turn." "Oh, yes, I'm listening. Universal Studios sounds good," I replied. Then she said, "Could you take care of the arrangements then? You like doing that sort of thing, right?" "What? Am I arranging this all by myself? Can someone help me?" I posted in panic. Emily replied, "Of course you will handle it. You planned the school trip, right? It should be easy for you." That was not me alone. The school arranged it through my company, and it was a team effort, I explained, but no one responded to that, and Emily just posted, "Thanks, we're counting on you," and forcibly ended the conversation. It might have been manageable if the trip was more than a month away, but the departure was in 2 weeks. It was the spring break season, and hotels were getting booked up everywhere. I asked the other members in the group chat for help, but my messages were read and ignored, and Emily would ask me, "How's it going?" once a day. I wanted to cancel the trip altogether, but I wasn't sure what the mom group would say, and more importantly, my son was really looking forward to going to Universal Studios. Despite not wanting to use my company's resources for personal matters, I reluctantly did so to make the arrangements in time. One thing that bothered me was Emily insisting on using her name for the group reservation. Additionally, I was concerned that I had to front the payment and collect it on the day of the trip. Then came a day I'll never forget. On the day of the trip, when my son and I arrived at the meeting place, the other members were already there. In fact, they were on the bus, ready to leave, so we hurried over. Why were they all there 30 minutes before the scheduled time when they usually show up at the last minute? I had a bad feeling. Gasping for breath as I tried to board the bus, Emily blocked the entrance and pointed to a sign saying, "Can't you see this?" It read, "Capacity 15." The bus I arranged was supposed to be a 20-passenger minibus. Our group consisted of 7 moms, 7 kids, and because it was a long trip from the Midwest, I had arranged for 2 drivers, making us 16 in total. A 15-passenger bus wouldn't have enough seats. With a malicious smile, Emily said, "You could have spared yourself the hurt if you had arrived right at the meeting time. We moved up the meeting time so we wouldn't hurt you. You seem to be under some misunderstanding," she continued. "I'm sorry, what do you mean? Where are our seats?" I asked, only to hear laughter coming from the bus. Then Emily, holding her stomach from laughing so hard, said, "Oh dear, you're still misunderstanding. Why would you think you and Eric are coming? This is a trip for us and our kids. Were you a part of us? But you asked me to arrange everything in the group chat," I replied, struggling to contain my anger and frustration. "I did ask, but who said you were coming with us? Can you read? Don't make such a mistake," Emily continued, still laughing. "That's awful. How could you do this? Did I do something wrong?" As I protested, Emily retorted, "Don't you see your own mistake? Exposing someone else's child to the risk of skin cancer. You were the first to betray us." Emily was still holding a grudge about the decision to make the school trip to Hawaii. "Anyway, that's the situation. We're going to be late, so could you move?" Emily pushed past me, closed the bus door in front of me, and the bus left. Left behind were my son and I. "Mom, what about Spider-Man, Harry Potter?" my son asked, tears welling up in his eyes, realizing he wouldn't get to see the much-anticipated attractions at Universal Studios. He was so looking forward to Universal Studios. It seemed like my son understood that he couldn't go, that he was being left behind. It was too much for my son to see his mom being treated so coldly by other adults. "I'm sorry, Eric. We can't go with everyone today. We'll definitely go with Dad next time," I tried to comfort him. But he couldn't hold back his tears any longer and cried on the spot. I managed to hold back my tears, hailed a taxi, and we went home. My son was so upset and ashamed that he stayed in his room for 3 days. Worried about him, my husband and I took turns staying off work to be by his side. 3 days later, when I returned from work and checked our mailbox, I found unenveloped cash and a partially eaten bag of snacks from Universal Studios. Clearly the return of the trip expenses and a thoughtless attempt at a souvenir. I knew who was responsible. Judging by the amount of cash, it was meant to cover the trip costs. I hid the snack bag deep in the trash so Eric wouldn't find it and stored the cash, finally noticing my hands were shaking. How far would these people go to hurt someone? Hurting my son was unforgivable. I thought I should stop associating with them. With that thought, I decided to stop checking the group chat altogether. Years passed with no contact from the old mom friends group until about 5 years later. The group chat sprang to life again, moving forward without me just like before. From the chat history, it seemed that not just me but other former mom friends hadn't updated this group for a long time, indicating they had formed a new group without me. In the midst of it all, there's only one reason they're chatting again in the group I'm in. It's to use me. As I silently watched the chat unfold, it was decided that next Wednesday, we'd be going to a famous high-end sushi restaurant for lunch. Of course, I was expected to make the arrangements. This is going to be fun. It's one of those places you have to reserve, right? I can't wait to brag to my friends. The other moms were posting one after another. I also added a quick looking forward to it and closed the chat. On the promised day, at the promised time, I went to the restaurant and found all the former mom friends gathered in front of it. Long time no see, Cindy. Did you make the reservation? Must have been hard to get one, huh? Emily, leading the pack, greeted me in a familiar tone. That expression was the same one she had 5 years ago when she left me and our son behind. They must be trying to trick me again. Hello, long time no see. There's a bit of a line forming behind you, so maybe you could come inside, I suggested to my former mom friend, urging her to enter. That prompted the former mom friends to enter the restaurant with Emily leading the way. As the staff welcomed us, they asked Emily, "How many in your party today?" "A reservation for 6 under Smith," Emily responded loudly enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. The staff went towards the back after saying, "Please wait for a short while. I'll get someone to show you to your table," and the former mom friends burst into laughter.
By the way, Cindy, why are you here? Meeting someone? Surely you don't think you're dining with us. You're not our friend. Sorry about that.
Emily said that, as she remained unchanged since 5 years ago. "Actually, I have a reservation here too," I said, and the former mom friends went silent.
What? A reservation?
As Emily started to speak, a server came from the back and said, "Ms. Smith, I'm sorry. We have your reservation for 4 people," to which Emily panicked. 4? That can't be right. I changed it to 6 last week. The other former mom friends started murmuring, "What's going on?" Then the server noticed me hiding behind the former mom friends and said, "Ms. Smith, oh, we've been expecting you, Madam CEO. Your party is also here," calling me out. "Thank you. Sorry for being late. Could you show us to our table?" I was about to be led by the server when Emily grabbed my arm.
What's going on? Why are you being seated?
She demanded my explanation. "Please lower your voice. You're disturbing the other guests." I calmly responded to Emily. She, along with the former mom friends, was stunned. "I have a reservation for 4, which is why I'm being seated. You all made a reservation too, right? It's hard to get into this place without one," I stated plainly. In response, Emily's face twisted in anger. You were supposed to book for 7 for us. You tricked us. I couldn't help but laugh. Why would I make a reservation for you? Did I ever say I would? Emily's face grew redder.
But you replied looking forward to it in the chat.
That meant I was looking forward to seeing you all enjoy your meal. I'm not part of your mom friends group. I never thought I was included as a member. I said that to provoke Emily. Emily was completely speechless. Then, from behind, one of the former mom friends interjected. Wait, did the server call you Madam CEO? What did she mean? I run a company that deals with travel and dining. This restaurant is one of mine. Today, I reserved this lunch for my dear friends. Someone did change the reservation to 6 a week ago, but at the last confirmation yesterday, I changed it back to 4. I explained to them as I gestured to 3 friendly-looking friends waving at me from a table. After waving back, I said to the mom friends group, "Excuse me, I've kept them waiting," and left them frozen in their spots to join my table. I simply had friends outside of that group. Our children attended an affiliated school where the campus changes based on the curriculum chosen. Eric pursued a curriculum focused on sports to devote himself to soccer. This separated us from Emily and the others who focused on academic curriculums since middle school. It was a relief. In this new environment, I found kind mom friends, and Eric could immerse himself in his beloved soccer, enjoying peaceful days both mentally and physically. That's why we came to have a meal with these friends whom I could talk to without any reservations. During the meal, a server whispered to us, "Excuse me for interrupting your meal, but a woman who was here earlier is causing a scene at the reception." Looking towards the reception, there was Emily throwing a tantrum like a child, yelling, "I won't accept this. I'm definitely going to eat sushi here, so make room." No other former mom friends were in sight. It seemed they had left Emily behind. She was throwing a tantrum like a child, insisting on eating sushi. "Please call the police. She's just an old acquaintance. Don't worry about me," I told the server, and watched as the police arrived and took Emily away. Months later, after Eric successfully finished his college entrance ceremony, he moved to his dormitory, and we were enjoying some long-awaited time as a couple. However, since both my husband and I run our own businesses, it's hard for our days off to align. Despite the busyness, we are living fulfilling days. I was curious why Emily had started bothering me again after 5 years. Rumor has it that Emily had always wanted to make your son a celebrity and had kept him from sports to avoid injuries since he was young. Mostly playing at home, he eventually got hooked on video games, leading to a reversed sleep schedule and sporadic school attendance. Apparently, she was not pleased to hear my son got into college through a sports scholarship, resenting the future we envisioned for him. It's unbelievable as a parent to make others uncomfortable out of ego. I hope Emily's son doesn't succumb to her pressure and follows his own path.